It's a great opportunity for us to really get to start to know these kids and to develop our plan going into 2024. I know you guys are going to have some questions about, upcoming free agents, on our roster. We have, Saquon Barkley, which we're going to talk to his representatives this week. There's nothing new on that front. The conversation, the plan all along was to meet here in Indy and have those discussions about, how we're going to move forward with him. He's a guy we'd like to have back. So those conversations will take this week and will take place this week, and we'll see if we can get something done with him. And then Xavier McKinney, the same boat. His agent David Maggetto get in here on Friday. We have a meeting planned with him. I've had really good talks with Xavier over the last couple of weeks, but talks have not begun with that. I know there was something out there that maybe they'd began conversations with a contract extension, but we haven't had any talks other than we're going to get to the combine, think about where you guys see the value. We're going to have our comps, and then we can start from there. But, Xavier is another player that, we'd like to have back. He's 24 years old. He was a captain, played 100% of the snaps, and, we think a lot of X. And, look forward to getting in the negotiation period here later this week. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
You talked to Daniel about what your plans might be at quarterback in terms of adding somebody and potentially. Will he be sort of in the loop at all on that?
Yeah, Daniel's been in there every day. He's been working hard. We've had good conversations, and he understands where we are. He understands that we're going to need to add a quarterback. He's coming off an injury. Tommy DeVito's under contract, and Daniel. So we'll bring in either a veteran quarterback through free agency, and that Tyrod's in the mix there too. We're going to talk to Tyrod's representatives this week, and Tyrod's a true pro. He's been really good for not only Daniel but Tommy DeVito and his progress throughout the year. He's a true pro. So we'll address the position. Again, it can be through free agency, and it doesn't preclude us from doing it in the draft as well.
Better indication at this point, Daniel, with his progress of when he's going to be back, or I know you said
so he actually started
throwing.
Jordan, he actually started throwing. He's been throwing for about 2 weeks stationary now. He's not dropping back or doing any of that stuff. So he is on track. He's doing everything he can to get back. We're optimistic about where he is, and there's some talk in the spring that he may be able to go through, whether it's 7-on-7 or individual, throwing routes on air, that he'll be able to do some of that stuff. We probably won't expose him to team activities, but every patient responds differently to surgery. So, knock on wood, we haven't had any setbacks. He hasn't had any setbacks, and if he continues on that pace, he should be ready for the start of training camp.
What is your faith in Daniel as being
I have
a
faith
guy?
in Daniel.
You signed him.
I have faith in Daniel as our starting quarterback.
As far as, is the bar for a starting quarterback, can he get you to a Super Bowl and win it? And if that's the bar, is that still the bar you have for Daniel?
Say that again.
Is the bar for your starting quarterback, can he get us to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's
and
the
win
ultimate
it?
goal for everybody, is to win a Super Bowl. So we want to win a Super Bowl. It's not one position. You got to build a good team. You got to have surrounding parts. There's a lot of good quarterbacks that haven't won Super Bowls. So you got to have a good team. So it's not just the quarterback position. I understand your question, but I think you got to continue to build a team around the quarterback, and it's an important position. But I think you got to build the pieces around him on both sides of the ball and all three phases.
Joe, there's a lot of talk about whether the Giants might trade up. Might trade up in the draft. 2018, you guys traded up in Buffalo from 21 to 12 a couple weeks before the draft. The Jets traded up from 6 to 3 a couple weeks before the draft. When you're trading up weeks before the draft, does that just – it's not saying you would do that, but do you have to like 3 prospects if you're going to pick third, or would you trade up hoping to get one guy at that spot?
Yeah, that's interesting because we were actually, when that happened from 6 to 3, we were actually doing a private workout with Josh Allen. Literally there in Laramie, Wyoming, Josh is throwing, and Indianapolis traded that pick, and they were 3. And again, you don't know what other teams think of the players or who they're going to get. Obviously, there was some inclination that the Jets were going up to get a quarterback at 3. So I think at that position, and I said it last year, it's a different stratosphere. You got to get around these kids and you got to get to know them. And until you're able to do that, it's hard to make those type of moves. So we were still going through our process at the time in Buffalo to get around those prospects. And then once we were comfortable, I think it's that's when you make that type of move. So again, this is the start. There's a lot of these prospects. It's the first time we're going to get around them, and we're looking forward to it. But free agency will set the table for some of the decisions we make in the draft. So again, it's an exciting time for us.
You wouldn't make a move, generally speaking, that kind of move for just one guy, right? to know what the teams in front of you are doing.
That'd be hard to do until you're on the clock. And again, that's a different occasion. I know the Panthers did it last year. They did it like, I think the day was March 10th. They traded up to 1. So whatever exposure they had to Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, whoever their guy was, must have been good enough that they said, we got our guy. And I think that's important, because then if you get around them or you find information out that maybe you're not excited about, you just traded a lot of draft capital to go up and get somebody that now you're uneasy about. So I think you got to be comfortable with the film. You got to be comfortable with who the player is, what the setup's going to be for that player to have success before you do something like that.
Comfortable with the state of your roster to give up the assets it would take to do a trade up?
Again, the roster's it's fluid. Okay, we still have free agency. The roster could look a lot different in 3 weeks from now based on what we do in free agency. So that's evolving. It's hard to answer right now because the way the roster is going to look, and that'll help set our plan as we go into the draft. Some of it's going to be based on what we do in free agency. And again, the exposure to the players.
Given what we saw, no, you're good. Given what we saw last year with the running back market and the available backs this year, what do you make of the free agent market this year for running backs?
What do I think of the free agent running back market? Yeah, I mean, there's some good names there. I mean, it's a little bit of a saturated market. There's some guys at different ages that have had success. There's some older guys that have had some success. So it's a diverse group. That's a good question. That's a good question. I can't predict what's going to happen with the running back market. We'll have a better feel here in a couple of weeks once you get into that. When you can start doing the negotiations and the contracts. But yeah, again, three running backs were franchised last year. We'll see if they're franchised again this year, or maybe they're not. What their value is. So there's a lot of uncertainty as you go into free agency because, again, teams can re-sign their players up until that Wednesday. They can negotiate with them. We can negotiate them starting that Monday. So you'll really get a feel for the market 13 days from now when we can start negotiating with agents.
Unique spot with Saquon because you went through so many rounds of negotiations, and you usually do that with a guy and be in the same spot the next year. How has his value changed in your mind from where you left it last July 15th or whatever that day was?
I wouldn't say his value has changed, especially to the organization. Like he's a captain, he's a leader, he's a hard worker. I think the world of Saquon, and I still think he can play. So my value for Saquon really hasn't changed. Unfortunately, throughout the process, starting back in November of 2022, we weren't able to come to an agreement in terms of where we both thought a deal made sense. So we'll circle back again. He has a new agent, Ed Berry, who we have a really good relationship with CAA. Really good guy and does a great job. So look forward to sitting down and having conversations with him. I think we've all grown, Saquon, myself, the organization, through the last 12, 13, 14 months, and Saquon may be in a different place now than he was then in terms of understanding the market and the business side of it, and I'm looking forward to having those conversations with him.